all of my children in here, so it'll be interesting. I figured I was going to keep it the way it normally is so everyone can see how you function. It just is what it is. We live in a townhome with 6 people, so make it work.
That's right. We make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
I'm super excited. I was going to kind of put your guys' resources into a nice presentation, and I didn't get it finished in time.
That's fine.
Probably because I got it to you so late.
That's okay.
Oh yeah, same.
It's okay. We are actually, I'm going to try something new once we get started today. Zoom allows you to actually stream live on Facebook.
Oh, that's right.
So I'm actually going to try that this week. We'll see if it works. I've never done it before, so we're going to try something new.
Yep. Right? Why not?
So we'll give everybody a couple of minutes to kind of start popping on.
Awesome.
Courtney, none of the kiddos are in your screen.
Oh, they will be. I kept everyone with me because I felt like that was an actual representation.
Yeah.
And I felt like, you know what? Let it all hang out.
This is life, man. We're doing our best.
That's right. So I feel like that's a great representation of the daily.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We were just
Cathy, how are
joking
you
about
hanging in there not being able to see your kiddos?
Me?
Your
Actually,
school kiddos.
I was going to say, I just got off of a Google Meet with one of my classes, so it was nice to see their faces again.
That's good.
It is definitely hard, and I shed a few tears the other day when they said that school was not going to be back in session, so
yeah,
made me sad.
Dang it.
You know, and since I'm not going back in the classroom, it really hit me hard.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I was telling somebody about you the other day and just the reality of being your last year of teaching after that long and not being ending on this note.
Yeah, it was a hard pill to swallow.
I bet. Do you think that anything will be done like in the summer to celebrate graduations for seniors or anything like that?
I don't know. I wish they would. I've seen other states that are even doing like at old drive-in movie theaters. And they're having everybody pull up and then they're projecting up on the movie screen like the valedictorian speech and some other, and at least that way, you know, there's some kind of celebration.
Totally.
And my daughter said they should even have each car drive around to the front.
Seriously.
Something. They need to be acknowledged somehow because I feel bad for these seniors.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. That would be cool.
Definitely.
Okay, well, we are going to, last week people kind of popped on throughout the hour, but we're just going to go ahead and get started. I am going to see if I can do this whole live stream thing. So give me just a second. Let's see. While I'm trying to figure this out, oh, actually, it looks like it's happening. Hang on one second. You guys should be really proud of me. This is like
I have no idea what you're doing, so I am impressed on a number of levels. You're fine.
Me too. I'm learning all this new technology day by day.
Right? Okay, let's see. Ooh, I think I figured it out.
Look at you go.
Okay, let's see. Go live. Sorry guys for the delay.
No
You're
worries.
fine.
You're good.
We're fine.
The problem is I can't do it in advance. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to wait until.
Oh, it's showing me live on Facebook. I'm seeing it.
Look at me!
You did.
All right, cool. Okay, so Eric says Facebook is having some bugs with live stream. If it's not working, it might be. Okay, cool. Well, Eric is one of my past clients. You can see Eric Capehart down there, and he's actually, he does marketing for a living. So I should have reached out to you, Eric, before I did that. And his wife is actually a teacher, and I know she's feeling the same way as you are, Cathy, just struggling with the reality of not being with her kids. And I know that as teachers, you do what you do and have the patience and love in your heart to be able to do what you do. I can barely handle my 2 kids on a daily basis. I don't know how you do it. And I know that the reason you're able to is because just the sheer passion that you have and love for kids. I want to give some background to both of these ladies. Cathy, interestingly enough, so my oldest is a sophomore, and Cathy was his first grade teacher. So
I'm old.
kind of crazy. We've just stayed in contact on Facebook, and I was so sad. Actually, she does the French immersion program up at Oak Hollow. And it was really when the dual immersion programs just barely started here in Utah. And I was so excited. In fact, Courtney, were you the boys' nanny during that?
I was. Yep.
So how random is that? So
yes.
Cathy was my Carson's first grade teacher, and during that time, Courtney was their nanny. Oh my gosh. I hadn't even made
putting
that
it all together
when I asked you to be on here. So how cool is that?
That is cool.
But Courtney's a dear friend of mine, and she has been homeschooling. She has kids in all age groups and has been homeschooling for several years. And Cathy actually gets to jump on a call with some of her students at the end of this phone call. So we're actually going to swap it. Last week I did the real estate update first, but we're going to jump into our topic with our guests first this week, since we need to let Cathy get to her kiddos. So thank you both for being on here. I so appreciate both. And I can easily pull up and share my screen and pull up the resources that you talked about. If you would like me to at any point, just let me know. And I would love for interaction as well from all of you watching. So either on Facebook Live through the comment section, you can chat there and send us your questions, or through the chat function on Zoom, wherever you're watching. I'd love to see your questions as well, and we can throw those to Courtney and Cathy. So Cathy, if we can start with you, just give us some perspective from being a teacher. I realized last week, here's the reality of what we're all living with. I work obviously a lot, and that hasn't really slowed down during these weird times that we're living in. And so, frankly, I've kind of let my boys manage their schoolwork, and they're old enough that I can do that. But we realized the other day that my youngest was not doing what he was supposed to, not because he wasn't trying, but because he misunderstood what he was supposed to do. He was just going to the dashboard on Canvas. He wasn't going into each module for each class. So what tips can you give from the teacher perspective for parents who are going, OMG, I don't even know where to start? Like, what's your best tip for us?
I would say the best tip is just constant communication with that teacher. I know that I make myself available pretty much 24/7 right now for parents, because we're both learning this, how to manage Canvas. My little second graders have never been on Canvas before, so you can't just throw them on. So I know that's a struggle for parents. They're learning it as well as their child. So I would just say, just a constant communication, either your child, which yours are old enough that they could reach out to the teacher, hey, can you help me? What should I be doing? Or a parent, just either through email, or I've set up Google Meets with my parents one-on-one so that they can contact me and I can walk them through and show them on my computer, project it and show them how to maneuver around what they need to learn.
So with Google Meets, what's the tactical application there? Like if somebody has never done that before, how do they even begin with Google Meets?
So I typically give a link to my parents that they just have to click on meet.google.com, and I give them a specific, so it's very much like Zoom, where it's the same idea, just a different platform.
Got you. Yeah. So I'm going to bring up real quick, you had sent me a bunch of really cool resources this morning, some different ways to maybe keep the kids engaged that isn't necessarily like just the assignments online, but rather ways to keep them engaged otherwise. So I'm going to share this screen real quick, and then will you kind of talk us through some of these resources?
And so one of the biggest things, while you're doing that, one of the biggest things that I have told my parents is that what you're doing at home cannot mirror what we do in the classroom. It's impossible to do that. We spend 6 to 7 hours, and you cannot expect your child to do 6 to 7 hours of work at home. Yeah. So for me and my second graders, I told them 20 minutes of math a day, 20 minutes of reading a day, and then they also, since we're in dual immersion, they do 20 minutes of French a day. And so it's about an hour that we're expecting our kids. And I've told my parents if they want to get away from the technology piece, they can use a recipe and make something in the kitchen, whether it's science related or food related. And then they're getting the reading skills, reading the recipe. They're getting math by learning how to measure their real life skills, and then the final products.
Yeah. So what would you say to somebody who's really concerned about, elementary school, I think is a little different, but definitely. What about those in junior high and high school that are really concerned about their kids falling behind? From a teacher perspective, from a district perspective, what's the chatter that you've heard in how we will pick up next year and how much grace there's going to be since we're all in the same boat,
Absolutely. And I know with my district, we have talked a lot about, we know that there will probably be some backslide in kids and what they're missing out on, home versus school, and that we as teachers are prepared for that when they come in the fall. It's not going to be, we're judging a parent, you didn't work with your kid as much as you should have. We're knowing across the board that it's going to be that way. Kids are going to come in and they will have to maybe spend that first month reviewing some of those skills that they might have missed out on at this point.
Yeah. I am a big believer of looking for silver linings and things. And thankfully this was at the end of the year,
And I read something yesterday about that same thing, Alicia. It was, we've been in school with these kids over 100 days already. They've got the big bulk of their learning in. And for a lot of these older kids, these last month and a half of school is testing, unfortunately, like those statewide testing. So that's a lot of what some of those older kids are missing. And so they're not going to be as far behind as some parents are worried that they will be.
Yeah.
They will be fine.
So talk us through some of these resources, 20 virtual field trips to take with your kids. Tell us about that.
So as I've been going through this quarantine, I was trying to find things that parents could do with their kids at home outside of the Canvas assignments that teachers are giving them, that, this is the time of year we'd be going on field trips in my classroom. So most of these are free things that you could do as a family. And so I've listed a lot of links, and this link is, you click on it and it gives you 20 different field trips that you could take with your kids, and you'll see the video and walking around the different places. And so I thought that would be fun since the kids are missing their field trips this year.
Yeah. One thing I would say about that too is for some of the older kids, I personally am taking a Yale course right now on the science of well-being because it's free. And when else in our history is like Ivy League school is going to be offering free courses, right?
Absolutely.
Why not? And it's really, so I've incentivized my boys to take it as well. They get $5 a week for taking the class, that week's class, and then $5 if they participate in a discussion about it, so I can see if they're actually really like intaking the information. So, you know, whether it's a virtual field trip or some different online learning, maybe now is the time to really look at, well, what do the kids enjoy learning about in the first place? You know,
there's so many resources that are offering free, like you said, that never before have they offered these things free, and try them out.
Yeah. Well, and Courtney, you might, you know, be able to speak to this since you've been looking for these creative solutions for a long time from a homeschooling perspective. You know, Carson, my oldest, my 16-year-old, is not a huge fan of school. I mean, I wasn't either.
Right.
And the structured piece of like sitting down behind a desk and, you know, all the subjects and whatever, he's always really struggled with. And yet he excels greatly when he's doing something like business related or sports related, or, you know, he has a film industries class right now that he loves.
Right.
So, you know, what are some ways that you found classes or learning opportunities that pertain specifically to their individual interests?
You know, actually, one of the amazing things about the internet is that you just type in interested in film class. You can begin to Google and find opportunities during COVID-19 for free programs that will teach kids a variety of subjects and doing things that they love, so that, yes, they're only doing that, I mean, hour of school a day, which is really the realistic goal from a homeschool perspective. But then they also have times during the day where they're learning things that they love. And so for my kids, sometimes we'll watch a history documentary and those types of things that just engage them in a different way, and let my son pick the topic because he loves history. So I really feel like just about 10 to 15 minutes once a week of, you know, talking to your kid about what they want to do that week, what they want to learn that week. You know, it's a fun, engaging time, whatever they want, and then help them search it out so that you kind of have a few goals for them during the week where they're doing something that they're passionate about.
Yeah.
I love that.
Tell us a little bit about, so because I didn't have time to put all of the resources that you guys shared with me in a really nice presentation beforehand, I will do that after this call and then link it up to the recording as we email you guys this recording afterwards, like we did last week. But you sent me a bunch of Instagram handles. Tell me about some of those.
Part of the reason I sent these particular Instagram handles was that they're parent resources. So I've found in, you know, just speaking with family members who now are trying to public school their kids at home, they're needing resources and they're needing realistic expectations and goals set for themselves. And so a lot of these are therapists, writers, parenting experts, just to give parents some tips and clues and cues on what to do throughout their weeks with their kids so that they're not in this constant policing and battling with school. It's stressful for the child, it's stressful for the adult. And I think it really hurts the relationship to have to spend all of your time trying to drive them through online schooling. So finding realistic expectations for the child of how to navigate online schooling, especially your high schooler, is really helpful. And these therapists, writers, and parenting experts are all addressing the COVID situation and helping parents with some encouragement, which I think they really need to hear right now so that they can encourage their child.
You know, I want to speak to that for a second. This might be a little bit of a tangent just because it really strikes a chord to my heart right now. So we I'm going to get real vulnerable here, but about a month and a half ago, we started weekly sessions with a family therapist because my oldest and I struggle big time. We butt heads like none other. Courtney, you know him. He's a stubborn child.
You're very, very similar.
And
I remember.
Jenny's laughing because she deals with me on a daily basis too.
But both of you so bright and incredibly talented. So that's part of why those creative minds just butt heads.
Yeah, so that's the interesting thing, right? It's what struck a chord with me, what you were just saying right there, is the expectations. I verbalized out loud for the first time last week, I feel like I'm grieving the loss of expectations of an ideal. It sounds really funny, but as I try to articulate how I'm feeling, I feel like I'm grieving the loss of an ideal of what I expected my family dynamics to look like.
Absolutely.
And this whole situation is bringing everything like to a forefront.
Absolutely.
We're being confronted with it. And the hard part is I have such high expectations for both my kids, but it really is at the forefront with my 16-year-old because I have a year and a half left. And he's off to the Navy and gonna be gone, right?
Yes.
So, I guess from both of you, just what tips would you give? What suggestions? What do you have in the way of if somebody else feels the way I've just described and just feeling like, okay, this is not what I expected my family dynamic to be right now, and I'm failing as a parent, being a homeschool teacher that I didn't want to be right now. Any suggestions or comments?
Yes, I do, but I want to make sure she gets a chance to chime in, especially if she has to
go ahead.
pop out.
Go ahead.
Okay. I have found in navigating this time with my teen, because she is the one that I don't homeschool, so we're taking her private school education and dropping it into our living room. That you, and after also I spoke with, I've spoken with pediatricians and done some research from therapists on how to navigate this for adults, is that you do have this limited time with them that's left. And when I was talking to the pediatrician, she's like, setting some realistic goals, helping them set some realistic goals for their day and for their week helps them to feel like some satisfaction in the effort that they're putting in. But as the adult, you really want to spend the time and the focus into that relationship with a child rather than it being goal-based. It's really this interpersonal communication and getting to know who they are and watching funny videos with them and taking them on walks and driving through to get a coffee and really just engaging with them and asking them what their fears are, what their disappointments are, and being able to just encourage. There's light at the end of the tunnel. There's hope at the end of the day. They have not lost their future, and that you are there with them in the thick of it, and you're going to be there with them and support them. And just speaking that encouragement into their life is just really crucial right now, because all of their ideas of what they were going to do and how they were looking at the value of their life have been obliterated. And if we are so focused on our goals for them, whether it's to graduate at this specific school with this specific GPA, accomplishing this in a sport, we're setting ourselves up for failure and finding their value in that. They have so much to offer, and we need to encourage them that even if all of these things disappear as they have value. And when you do that, when you pour that into your kid, you're going to see them thrive, even if they're not getting an A in a class anymore. Even if they're getting a D in math and they're just kind of trying as best they can, you can still really build up your relationship with your teen and middle schooler.
I love all that you just said. It's so true. And that we as parents have to back off and with our expectations from ourselves and from our children. And I love that you said that let your teenager decide what they love, what they're passionate about. Find that schedule that daily schedule that works for you and your family. And it's not going to look like your neighbor's schedule. It's not going to look like the school schedule. And, work on the academics, but also work on them inside, who they are and what they want to be and their hopes and dreams. And like you said, it's not over with. It's not, it's a new reality, but we need to embrace it and find that silver lining in that reality. And we can still accomplish all of those hopes and dreams and passions. And as a parent, we need to value what our children want to do, where they see themselves going, and just support them in every way that we can and let them know that we're there for them.
Yeah, and I'd like to add into, Alicia, you touched on something that I hear is parents feel like they're failing. You're not failing. You didn't fail because you had this idea for your child. It is born out of passionate love for your kid. So I think when you're expressing this to your teenager, you let them know where it comes from. I have loved you since birth. I love you with every breath that I am. And so everything that I set out for you was because I wanted to give you the best. And now I'm seeing that we have to pivot. We have to be agile here. We have to make some changes here. But your value is not anything that I hoped for you. It's just who you are. It's how much I love you, and just helping them prepare a new path and be flexible. And I think that will encourage them and give them hope that it's okay that things look different right now. And honestly, Alicia, it's going to look different in 6 months. And so we're really teaching them a new life skill.
Flexibility.
They have value.
That key.
Flexibility. Yes. And life has value. Their life has value. No matter if everything changes and they go in a new direction, encouraging them in their passions and showing them that it all has value is really, I think, important.
Absolutely.
Okay, next time I do one of these Zoom calls, I'm going to have to tell the guests when I ask them to be involved that the rule is they can't make me cry on my own Zoom call. That's a rule, you two.
I've cried on many calls this week. Many.
This is hard.
And that's okay, because that shows we're passionate about who we are and what we're doing and our children. That's
Absolutely.
who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's important, and they're seeing that. They're seeing that vulnerability.
And
I feel like that speaks volumes to them about your role in their life. And they see you and they go, okay, that person, I need that person in my life.
And they truly
that
care
person's
about me.
In my corner. They're in my team. And it's irrelevant to what I'm necessarily doing at the moment, whether it's super awesome or super terrible, we're still there for them. So I feel like in this time, we're really speaking volumes to our teens rather than just what we were having to do in the past to shuffle them out the door into every next activity and every school event. You really have time to kind of show them right now how important this relationship is.
Guys, you're making me cry, and I don't even have You know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing how you guys are enforcing your own values in your own self. That'll work with your kids, husbands, and especially yourselves. And I'm just dying over here too. They're beautiful, beautiful people, and I love being part of this. Thank you. Now I'll keep quiet again.
Thank you.
I don't know if you allow Mom to say anything or not in here, but
oh, there's Mom.
I have to say that I so agree with Courtney. And I was told by my adult kids that I was not disciplinarian enough, but I loved on them and supported them. And all 4 of our kids are the most amazing adults you can.
They're incredible human beings.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm blown away by every one of them.
That's for sure. But the love, like you said, the encouragement is so love.
Yeah, it's okay to fail. We need to be able to allow ourselves that opportunity. We cannot be perfect. You're not going to be a perfect parent right now, and it's maybe evident because you're with them all the time. It's in your face, but your humanity is so important for them to see. That you can fail forward is very important.
I teach my students in my class that growth mindset, and it goes exactly to that. That's how we learn. That's how we grow as humans, is that we all make mistakes. And it's good for our kids to see that as adults, we make those same mistakes and we fail and we learn.
It builds that compassion and empathy.
Without fail,
Failing isn't the right word for it. Failing means that you didn't do what you need.
Right.
We're doing the best we can.
Yeah.
And it's not a failure.
It may not be
Yeah.
what they're for, and may not. I think the word expectation and fail have those. If you have expectations, you have failures. But if you let go of those expectations and you do, my daughter, biggest problem, I loved her too much. Ha ha. But you know, I did the best I could, and I'm good with it.
Absolutely.
Now she's got to deal with it, and I have to learn to go with my expectations. But failure, none of us. You know that we're all here. We have not failed. That's really true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Errors and mistakes help you grow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. It helps set realistic expectations for your kids too. Honestly, I see in this particular generation, as far as the teens go, is that they've set such unrealistic expectations for themselves that when they don't meet that bar, they crumble and they feel like failures. And so then they begin to act like they feel, you know, so they think they are, and then they continue to behave in those patterns. It's really important that they're getting time to see that, like, just being, they have value. You know, there's something wonderful and beautiful that can come out of their life, whether they've met all their expectations that they've built up or not.
Yeah. You guys have obviously struck a chord. And I appreciate that. I think at this point, you know, I will pass on all the resources and all the things that you guys have, because I think we're all searching for some resemblance of control and normalcy, and that comes oftentimes in the way of trying to duplicate what was happening before, right? And Cathy, you mentioned both on the phone when we discussed this call and today, just if parents are trying to duplicate what their kids were doing at school, it's not going to work. If
and you're going to feel that.
They're trying to ask their parents and their kids to duplicate it's not going to work. So we've got to step into, you know, I find myself to be, I have several clients on this call, they can chime in if they want, but I find myself to be very adaptable and malleable, and like, you just solve problems. You just move forward and you adapt and you solve problems. So in my business, I feel like this hasn't really even hit me that hard, because you just adapt. My sellers move forward. We've been able to sell. We've been able to buy. You just adapt. But then I look at trying to adapt when it's not me in control, right? When it's school, when it's them having to control it, I'm not the one necessarily like orchestrating, and it's effing hard. So sorry.
No, it's true. It is.
But anyway, so Cathy, anything that you would add to that?
No, I agree. And it is our new normal right now. And we have to let go. I even as a teacher, I've had to let go, and I'm a control freak. So I've had to let go of my control of my classroom, and it's now become a partnership with my parents, and they are just as much of a teacher as I am, and I've been letting them know daily, we're in this together, we're learning together. Have patience with yourself, have patience with me, have patience with your kids, and we'll all come out of this better than we could have ever imagined.
Does this mean
the you know, it's a partnership with parents? I feel like I think we need to land there for a second, because as I look through different things, like what's new now that I hope continues? Like, I want to adopt this as a new norm as I move forward with my business, with things. And I think so often parents are working against teachers. You can speak to this more than anybody, but over the last, decade, my mom never would have bailed me out of a class because I didn't do my work. Never. That if I had to fall on my own sword, right? Look, she's shaking her head. She's like, yep. There's no way. The crap that parents, I see it on the soccer field with my kids. I see it in the school with my if I tell one of my kids' teachers, thanks for being hard on them, or thank you for holding them accountable to that, they're like, oh, thanks for not getting mad at me.
They are shocked.
What? Why would I be mad at you? You better hold me to the fire. So I just think one of the new norms that I hope comes out of this, Cathy, for you and everybody else in your role, is that parents realize, oh boy, I need to have more grace with my kids' teachers. My kids are actually little shits. No wonder they were getting in trouble. And I just realized there might be kids in the background. Sorry, Yvette. Anyway, hopefully there's more grace with our teachers. Hopefully our parents do view it as, this is a partnership. This isn't my babysitting for my kids for 8 hours. This is like me partnering with our teachers, and they're doing their best.
I hope so too. I really do.
Is this being recorded? Can we get a copy of this? I hope.
Yep, it's being recorded.
Good. I definitely want a copy, please. To send to the world.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Before we go, Alicia, I have just 4 quick tips I'd love to just like quickly touch on without going into a ton of detail for obviously time's sake. Do we have time for that?
Yes, please. I'm going to write.
Okay. Awesome. So after doing this research and speaking to pediatricians and teachers, during this time of COVID, and even something we can continue on later on, but right now, this time of them schooling from home, one of the first things that we talked about was just the importance of a schedule. This isn't a rigid schedule that they follow, but just encouraging your child to get up at a certain time, and then your middle schooler and teenager to have a say in their schedule is really important, whereas your lower grade elementary, really providing them with a schedule brings some sense of control and safety.
And I emailed something like that to all of my parents. Here's a sample schedule of what a day could look like.
Brilliant. And honestly, probably having you show Alicia that type of schedule would be great to add on to here, because your expectation is so realistic. So that hour to 2 hours, maybe 3, if you're getting into the high school, ages, that time spent home in school is very different than in a brick and mortar school like we were a month and a half ago. So that was a really important piece. And then also making sure that they're doing like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I find teens to forget to eat. They're just not even on top of it. And that creates mood swings and a whole plethora of issues. Making little snack bins where kids can go grab healthy snacks and even some treats is super fun, because they're able to have some control over what they're doing. The second is being super flexible with your schooling. So allow them to take the laptop to the trampoline and lay on there and read, or put a picnic blanket out, or light the fire and let them sit in the living room. Allow them some freedom and mobility when they're doing their schoolwork. That's the beauty of homeschooling. We get to do those things. And then doing some of those things that we discussed earlier, whether it's cooking in the kitchen or watching a documentary on a history piece. Those things are really valuable, and they can see that there's lots of ways to learn. And I think it will really breed in them a re-love for learning, because it taps into all the different learners, the tactile ones and the ones that are auditory, and really helps a variety of kids. The third would be encouraging connection. Don't forget to let them maybe write letters to their friends. We do a ding dong ditch and drop them on people's doorsteps. And that's really helped my kids to stay connected with friends. And I allow my teen to go on walks and use her FaceTime and just kind of chat with their friends. We'll do drive-bys. So they drive by and wave to their friends and holler at them through the window. Kids love that stuff. They thrive on connection. And fourth would be to incorporate art and music. Art and music is so therapeutic. If you look at difficult times in history, what was bred out of them, even as far back as like the Black Death, the plagues, the Renaissance was born. Such beautiful things come out of art and music during times of difficulty. So allowing them to pot plants or make a kite or make a 3-course meal out of Play-Doh is super important for them, and really helps make their days more rich. So those would be the 4 little tips I just wanted to offer.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you
Awesome.
so incredibly much. And obviously we didn't have time to go through all of them, but Cathy sent me a ton of resources that don't require a district membership, don't require you to be a teacher. and are free. So thank you for
Awesome.
putting time into that and sending that to me, Cathy. Anything last bit that you either of you want to say before we move into real estate?
Well, thank you for having us, and
Mm-hmm.
be easy on yourselves. Have
Yes.
patience. Love yourself. Love your family.
Yes.
Yeah, and I hope that's another one of the new norms that comes out of this, is
Mhm.
that we cherish this family time that we've gotten, that
Mhm.
we sometimes forget about in the rush of, oh, I got to get to soccer practice. Oh, I've got to get here. I've got to get there.
Mhm.
And just things have slowed down a little bit. And
Yeah.
we need to
Give
take
yourself tons of grace.
that. Absolutely.
Lots and lots
Grace,
of grace.
grace, grace.
And remember, as much self-care as adults need, kids need that too. There's no special category target online for self-care for kids, you know? So self-care for kids is taking a walk or riding a bike,
Yes.
eating a favorite snack, watching a fun movie, laughing, laughter
Yes.
is so awesome for them. It's such a release. So just remember that, like, as much grace as companies are giving adults, you know, take a personal day. As much grace as we're offering adults, you know, relax, put your feet up, watch something funny. You know, they need to be right along with you doing that as well.
Yes.
You know, it's funny about that. Hunter, my almost 13-year-old, today was doing his work, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, Mom, you have to come look at this." And one of his teachers had put in his Canvas work, "Once you're done with your work, here's an example of what makes me laugh on a day-to-day basis. Check it out." And it was people falling on ice.
Yes. So good.
And he laughed so hard. And it was just, you know, that was one of those things. They never would have done that in classroom, you know? So that
They would.
You might not have been,
would.
you wouldn't get able to, you be able to see it. So you get to do it too.
It's true. Well, thank you both so much. I
Thank you.
really appreciate you. And if you have anything else that you think of and want to send over, I'll disseminate the information. Well, Maddie will disseminate it, but we'll get it out.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Felicia,
Lisa.
thank you for
Thank you.
sharing your passion. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. It seems kind of awkward to hop into real estate at this point, but I'm going to kind of shift gears quickly because I want to respect your time and make sure that we, you know, stick to an hour every time. So I'm going to switch over to a different screen real quick, maybe. And I've got some of the, you know, like I said last week, we're going to consistently look at some of the same stats each week so that we have some consistent watching, right? Because right now, month over month stats that we normally look at isn't enough. So we're going to kind of compare week over week, but there's some new stats I've pulled just as I've had conversations with people as well. And as the president of the Salt Lake board, I have a seat on the board for the Home Builders Association. And one of the things that comes from that relationship is, you know, we share stats with each other. What's going on in the home builder community versus what's going on in our community. And I have several clients building right now, and this has been a common question. In fact, some of the clients on this call today, when you're building a home, there's unique challenges and excitements and emotions and concerns. And one of those concerns is, you know, in a traditional contract, you have an appraisal contingency, meaning if it doesn't appraise, we can negotiate, we can, you know, have that as a buffer. In new construction, you don't have that. So that's been a big question I keep getting from new construction clients. And I just wanted to mention a couple of the things that the president of the Home Builders Association shared with me today. He said, you know, certainly we're like everybody else. It's a roller coaster for all of us. Good news is we are confident. So I don't know if you guys know this, but the Salt Lake Parade of Homes is actually the longest running parade of homes in the country. It was the original Parade of Homes. It's been going on for 75 years. This year is going to be 75 years. And they are pressing forward. The dates for that are July 31st through August 15th. the home builders that are putting the homes in that parade are pressing forward and continuing to build those homes. So that's a good news, because those are, sometimes they're built with homeowners already in place, but most of the time they're speculatory, they're spec homes, and they're built specifically for the parade. So that is a quote unquote kind of risky place for builders, and they're pressing forward. So that's great news. Certainly if directives from government change that, they'll pivot, but at this point they're pushing forward. Some stats that they, so Metro Study is an organization that the building community uses to survey builders, and so to get a pulse on the market. One really good news is because of the advocacy that we as realtors have done in the state of Utah, real estate has been deemed essential, and therefore all related practices as well. So recording can happen, permits can be pulled, building inspectors can do their thing on a city and county basis. So the building process can continue, and real estate in resale can continue. So, but going back, 83% of the contracts that have canceled from on a build job has been as a result of financing. So that's no surprise there, right? Some financing has been squozen and therefore falling out. 100%, every single builder that replied to this survey said they have not adjusted their base prices. They are not discounting their product. So that's really good news. 78% of the respondents said that they are keeping at minimum 80% of their plan in terms of number of starts. So when they have a plan projected as to how many home starts they're going to have, 78% of the respondents said that they will continue at minimum 80% of their starts. So that's a really positive stat. So anyway, those are just a couple of the things from the building community that I thought were really important. And then last week we looked at supply and demand. The reason I start with this statistic is because it's the basis for economics, right? Supply and demand. So if you look at Salt Lake County single family homes, you have in the homes under $400,000, you have less than a month's supply. And I'll give you context to what that means in a moment. Between 400 and 600, you have less than a month and a half. And then 600 to 750, you have just shy of 2 months worth of inventory. And once you get over $1 million, you have over 5 months of inventory. So what does that mean? What does that mean to the actual supply and demand? Well, if you look at what determines a normal or balanced market, anything between 6 and 7 months of inventory indicates a balanced market. So the supply and the demand are equal to each other. Anything under 6 months of inventory and it becomes more and more a seller's market, the more supply gets suppressed. As you go over 7 months of inventory, it becomes a buyer's market because you have more supply than you have demand. I hope that makes sense. So if we're talking about 6 to 7 months being the balanced piece, these are obviously still very low inventory numbers. And I mentioned last week that why that's important. It's always important, but we're also looking at right now, do we end up on the other side of COVID-19 when we come out the other side of this with too much demand? Because that's going to be the critical thing that topples the market, right? Well, so far, so good. So much so that we're actually seeing less inventory on the market than we did before, which again, as I said last week, has a different problem associated with it, and that's housing affordability. But in terms of the health of the fundamentals of our market, it still looks very good. Median price, this is something that we are going to look at on a month-over-month basis, but as of March, which you can assume kind of was pre-COVID numbers because of the escrow delay, in the real estate cycle, but we saw a 14% increase in the cost of median price of single family homes in Salt Lake County. So we'll see what April does at the end of April. Last week, I gave you these numbers right here. So here's week 1. And you saw kind of the basic statistics for the housing market in Salt Lake County in week 1. Well, week 2 shows me things that are reason for concern. The biggest thing that I look at and go, ooh, we're going to watch that. That's one initial indicator that things have slowed down, which anecdotally we already know, right? This is the number right here. In 2019, the second week of April, we sold 418 homes. Again, this is all housing types, only in Salt Lake County. In 2020, 188. That's a significant drop. The positive news is we're still seeing a very high percentage of what the original list price is to what it gets sold at, 98%. Last year it was 99%, and we're still only 30 days on market. So the biggest indicator that I see right there is when you have, under half of the number of homes sold, there's a lot of people hitting the pause button right now. Here's a very positive trend that I'm seeing that I I'm glad that we have this stat to watch. If you look, last week I showed you the showing time data. And just for those who maybe weren't here last week, or as a reminder, what this is a showing service that listing agents can use on their homes in order to very efficiently coordinate showings with their sellers. So showing time is not used by every agent by any means. It's not a required usage. However, when our MLS, UtahRealEstate.com, adopted this as part of our MLS system last year, we had over 80% adoption rate, or just shy of 80%. But anyway, a significant number of agents adopted this tool. So as I said last week, I'm a big believer that every statistic has a story to it. You can't take it at face value. So I want to give you some of that perspective as we look at this. One thing to consider is there has been an increase, just as I'm out showing buyers homes, I've had interaction with agents who are not using showing time right now on their listings. They're asking that you call them because they want to talk about the protocol for safety and sanitation and everything else. No kids in the home, don't touch light switches, etc. And so there could be a drop off in showings via showing time just simply by behavior changing, right? However, as we watch this week over week, we can assume trends. You can see the blue line is 2019's weekly average of number of showings on our listings. The orange line is the weekly average of number of showings in 2020. We spoke last week right here. It was taking a nosedive, right? Showings were down an average of 42%, but look what it's done in the last week. I've highlighted that with my green arrow here because it has increased significantly. In fact, the weekly average increased, you can see 12% right here. So going from 42% down to only 39% down, that's a positive, right? I can tell you anecdotally, just being out with buyers and having homes on the market for sale right now, I have absolutely felt this stat in real life on my listings and with buyers. I have a listing I think I told you guys about last week that kind of is just right over that conforming loan limit, and we were just having a real slow time. We weren't having many showings. Our showings doubled this week, and we just received an offer this morning. So that's a positive, just being out there, right? Another thing is the question, the question we're going to continually get, and is there a fire sale? I would say from a buyer's perspective, you definitely have some more leverage in negotiation. There's fewer multiple offers out there in the marketplace. So that's positive for a buyer. It's cooled off a little bit. That's positive for a buyer. But I'll tell you right now, if you think that this is the time that you're going to go and take advantage and gouge a seller. I don't see it. It's not happening in my experience right now. So you have more leverage, you have less competition as a buyer out there, but it's not like things are on fire. So to support that, or to see if that's accurate in what I'm feeling, being out there on a day-to-day basis, where I'm physically counting. There's no stat report on the MLS to produce this. So I have to like go line by line and see which ones have had a price adjustment. But last week, this is what I showed you. We had to, because there's no report for this, there's no way to like track the past without it being extremely arduous. And so we set a baseline metric. The last 30 days, as of last week, so here's the period of time that I was working under, we saw 0.05% of the inventories that had price reductions. Well, what is it this week? So for the last 7 days, same thing. 269 homes went active, 72, oh, I just didn't delete that from last week. I'm sorry. That's actually not supposed to be there. This is what we need to look at. There were 0 price increases and 13 decreases, which represents 0.04% of the total inventory. So again, we're seeing less than half of 1% decrease their prices and make adjustments right now. So that's really positive. There's no fire sale. I added this wasn't here last week, but I added this because this is just a curiosity factor for me. This is one thing that I'm feeling being in the market. Behaviors are changing. So one thing that we're going to see as a result of when COVID first hit, we didn't really see any slowdown at all. And then when the stay home order hit, we saw a pretty significant slowdown in activity, right? But the question was, is everybody going to pull their house off the market? Is everybody going to cancel their contract? It's not happening. What we are seeing is behaviors change pretty significantly. So here's a big thing. Listings withdrawn. That would say, as a seller, I had my house previously for sale, and for whatever the reason, maybe I'm immunocompromised and I don't want people through my home. So I am like out of the game, no longer. You cannot walk through my home. My house is withdrawn and off the market. That's kind of the extreme, right? It could be for a myriad of reasons. Maybe somebody was just testing the market and they went, okay, never mind. I'm staying here. I'm not buying. Like, I'm just going to take my house off the market. Never mind. That would be this type of withdrawn. We only, from over 2019, we only saw 0.5% of increase of listings withdrawn. So there hasn't been a huge swing there. Where we have seen a big increase is the utilization of different MLS statuses to allow people to keep marketing their home for sale, but making adjustments for what's a reality in our market today. So one of those is backup status, meaning I have a contract on my home, I have a primary buyer, they're working through their due diligence, et cetera, but I, as a safety net, am going to continue marketing my home on the MLS for a backup offer, because everybody has that little twinge in their side. Every one of my sellers, it's like holding your breath until the closing table right now, right? You go under contract and you're stoked about that, but you're holding your breath until you get across the finish line and that money is in your pocket, because we have seen canceled contracts and things of that nature, right? So we've seen people say, as a risk mitigation, I'm going to keep my house marketed on the MLS. And at a backup status. That status has been there and utilized for a long time, but we've seen a significant increase of people utilizing it. The other one is off market. This is a trickier one. And you guys, if you're one of my buyers, this is something that we've already talked about. I think a lot of agents, this is where they miss it. They miss opportunities for their buyers by not understanding this status. But off market, as it stands for our MLS, the UtahRealEstate.com, what that is for is it's a timeout. So in other words, for whatever the reason, we're going to take our house off market, so it's not actively being marketed, but it is still active. I still have a a legitimate listing agreement. I will totally sell if I get an offer. It's a very much an active for sale home. It's just not being promoted for showings. So before COVID-19, the biggest use of this would be something crazy happens. You know, I'm actively listed on the market and my water heater leaks all over and I have to do work in the basement and I don't want people coming through my home right now. So they just take it off for a week while that's being done. People have used this through the holidays. They don't want people coming in over Christmas and just don't want to deal with the showings. Maybe a kid is really sick and they're not going to leave the house for showings. So whatever the reason, right? Well, right now, if you're immunocompromised and you just cannot afford to have people walking through your home, you're probably going to put your house on off market right now. The biggest benefit to this is it stops days on market. So if you're listed for sale for 15 days and then you need to take it off market for 30 days while you wade through this situation, or maybe you're in a 14-day quarantine because you had interaction with somebody who tested positive, whatever. When you go back on market at the end of those 15 days, at the end of those 14 days, your days on market starts at 15. So that's a benefit. So when I'm representing buyers, we're looking for homes for them that are in the off market status. They can't see that on the MLS, but I can. So really this is a great opportunity to find homes that maybe there's no competition for at the moment that we can actually get them into, and it's the perfect home for them. So that's a lot of information, I know, but I hope that was helpful. Before we hop off, it's exactly 1. Does anybody have any questions about the market that they want me to address for next week or address right now? No? Okay. Well, thank you guys for sticking in here. We shifted gears pretty rapidly there from tears and giving all of us parents some grace to real estate. But hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully I assume the Facebook Live has been working. I haven't checked, but we will, like last week, compile this into a video, share the link in an email with all the related resources. And next week, same time, same 12 noon. And I'm excited to see you all there. Have a good week.
Alicia,
yeah.
Have a pick a number between 1 and 10.
Oh my gosh, I almost forgot. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna do the giveaway. Holy cow, I'm sorry. 7, it's my favorite number.
7, Zoe.
So
Zoe's iPad is what it says on the.
I bet, is that you?
Sorry, that's me.
Yay! Okay, so where is a local small business that you would love a gift card to?
Let's see. My kids love ice cream. There's the Blacksmiths in Bountiful. It's on Main Street.
Awesome. Blacksmith ice cream?
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. We will get that picked up for you and mailed off.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for reminding me, Jenny.
Yep, no problem.
Awesome job.
Thank you.
Information.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye, guys.